Good afternoon. When I set out on my career, I never imagined that one day I'd be getting on a plane to Astana to come and work as a consultant. But 2.5 years ago, that's exactly what I did. I flew into Astana from Abu Dhabi, and I remember my first meetings with the AFC. They were held at the Expo Centre, at the Expo site, in the admin offices there. The offices were still surrounded by all the building works in preparation for Expo. In the offices, it was just a vast open space with a few desks huddled in a corner. But what I remember most from those initial meetings was how young and how bright the people in the meetings were. I'd done the research before coming here. I'd looked at the demographics. I knew how young the population was. I knew the investments that had been made in human capital and education. But it's only really when you're there and you're working with the people, you actually see the scope of raw talent and potential there really is. Engaged on this project, the AFC, to create a new financial centre, new stock exchange, new legal system, new court, new arbitration centre. But what can I bring to help us be successful? In consulting, people talk about 3 models of consulting firms. First model is the leverage model, where you have a highly leveraged firm. A lot of young people, young talent, working their way through, getting lots of professional experience, learning on the job. A lot of structured activities so that everybody knows exactly what we're doing. The second type of consulting firm is what they call the brains practice. This is typically a very tall pyramid. Small projects where you get the best brains that are available into the room together to be able to solve the difficult problems. And the third type of practice is what they call the grey hairs practice, which is the one that I obviously qualify for. So grey hairs, what does that bring? Well, it's not the most leveraged practice. It's not going to be the brightest person, the smartest person in the room. What it brings is experience. Experience of having seen things been done, and what's been done well and what's not been done well. And that's actually what I bring to the party. I bring the experience of, yes, having seen how things have been done successfully before, but also the experience of mistakes and disappointments. I didn't set out to be a consultant. Actually, my father's a doctor, and he always wanted me to go to medical school. My 2 older brothers were more interested in the arts and the sciences. I was more interested in sport and playing rugby in particular. But I enjoyed maths, physics, chemistry. But medicine wasn't going to be for me. I had an uncle who was an engineer, so I went to work for Imperial Chemicals industry. I got a scholarship and went to Imperial College as a chemical engineer. I spent my time, I did a reasonable amount of studying, but I also enjoyed city life. And perhaps like some of you, by the time I graduated, I had a much better idea about what I didn't want to do than what I did want to do. I knew I still didn't want to be a doctor. I wanted to do something where, problem solving. I wanted to do something where I could actually understand how things work. Maybe engineering, but maybe something else. This was a time when I graduated where there was a very, very big change in the City of London, in the financial services area, what was called Big Bang. The London Stock Exchange was moving from open outcry trading to electronic screen-based trading. And there were all the privatizations, the IPOs, British Telecom, British Aerospace, British Airways, were all privatized at that time. And my belief is that big change can potentially bring opportunity. But that opportunity also means that there are decisions and choices to be made. Do I continue with engineering? Do I go into the city, into finance? Do I do trading? Do I become a consultant? If I had the opportunity to give myself advice at that time, I think there are probably 3 things that I would advise myself to do. The first is do the groundwork. Second is seek out the opportunities. And third is look at things on a no regrets basis. So the first, do the groundwork. That means get the professional education, clearly, but also seek out the other development opportunities that there are, on-the-job training, learning by doing, and practicing. Johnny Wilkinson is one of the greatest rugby players ever. He's the player that scored the winning goal for England when they won the World Cup. Johnny wasn't the fastest player. He wasn't the biggest player, the strongest player. But what Johnny did, 2-3 hours before the rest of the team were out training, he'd be out practicing kicking. And similarly, 2-3 hours after everybody else had gone in, he'd be practicing. And on match days, when kick went sailing over, some people would say, Johnny, it was a lucky kick, lucky score. But here's the thing. The more Johnny Wilkinson practiced, the luckier he got. Seek out the opportunities. Opportunities don't come to you. You have to go and seek them out. I've found that throughout my career, but I've also found it here in Astana. It was only when I arrived here and when I actually worked with people that I really understood the scale of opportunity and potential that there really is. The AFC is a very young organization in a very young country. If you compare that with older financial centers, it's yet to build up the same shared experience, the same tacit knowledge, and the same way of doing things. Just as an example, the first application that was made to the AFC to register a company was exactly that. It was the first application. If you compare that with the FCA in London, the Financial Conduct Authority, when they took on consumer credit, which is a very, very small part of the financial services industry, they processed 30,000 applications in the first year. It's not the difference in terms of those orders of magnitude that's important. It's the fact that they have a level of tacit knowledge and experience that we need to be able to take the opportunity to compress the timeline for that, to be able to build up that experience more rapidly. And that's the real opportunity for us as an organization. And I believe the same is true for individual development as well. You have the same opportunity to be able to compress the timeline for you to be able to build up that experience, build up that capability, if you seek it out. I may have grey hairs, and I may have some experience, but it works both ways. Just lifting and dropping something that's worked in another country, it may work, but it may not. I'm a guest in Kazakhstan. I need to understand how things work here. It's a learning opportunity for me. But also, there are pleasant surprises along the way. The Kazakh tradition of toasting is something that many other countries have sadly lost. It's something that I think should be implemented. Wherever Kazakhs go, they should implement that tradition and make sure that the business world takes it on. But there are frustrations. Setting up a company here, as someone who speaks very little Russian and Kazakh, it's frustrating. And there were times when I was frustrated setting up offices here. But actually, colleagues, where I saw frustration, they saw a business opportunity to be able to help other companies here to start business here. So it's important to get perspectives, different perspectives, because you find that you may well agree that you all agree this is the target, but the different perspectives will have a view as to how you're going to get there and what the way to do that. And that will reveal further opportunities for you. So definitely seek out the opportunities, but actually get different perspectives as to what the opportunities are and what the way is that you could actually get to them. The third piece of advice is to look at things from a no regrets basis. You'll plan things out and things won't go perfectly to plan. When you have a big decision, you want to look at it on a no regrets basis. And I'll give you an example with my first step into consulting with Andersen's. You think out, well, what are the potential things that can go well, the opportunities that there actually are? Now, for me, first step into consulting, the training opportunity, the education I'm going to get, international assignments. These are the things that will be good. But also recognize there'll be some things that won't go well, or things that may not happen the way you want them. There'll be times where you're working away from family and friends for an extended period of time. Times where you may be working without sleep for days in a row. And you may not make it all the way to partner. Now, all those things happened for me in my career, and many other things. But I have no regrets about the decision to join Andersen. But eventually it was time to move on from Andersen's. I mean, it was a place that I was familiar with the culture, familiar with the people. It was where I belonged. And moving, transition when you move, it's always hard. But I moved on to Barclays in London, and the first day was actually one of my very best in terms of learning experiences in my career. I arrived into the office and I found that a meeting had been booked for me. It was a guy called Robin Stainer. Now, Robin wasn't a Barclays employee. Robin was the Andersen's partner for financial services, and he'd spent over 20 years working with Barclays. And we sat down and we spent the whole morning together, and we went through the whole Barclays organization together, through Barclays Capital, through the corporate bank, through the retail bank, through Barclaycard, through group operations and technology. He laid out a who's who of everybody there, how decisions are made, how things are done. A complete guide to be able to navigate through an unfamiliar organization. And that was valuable in Barclays, in London, all that time ago. But the guidance to be able to navigate through an unfamiliar organization, for me, is as valuable today in Astana as it was back in Barclays in London. So what do I think? I think we have an abundance of opportunity. We have an abundance of raw talent. But at the end of the day, what we need is execution capability. We need to be able to get things done. And with a bit of grey hairs, with some experience, then maybe we'll be more successful in executing, doing the right things, the right way, at the right time, and that's what will bring us success. When I opened, I said I never imagined that I'd be getting on a plane to Astana to work as a consultant. In closing, I'd like to say, the decision to get on that plane, I have no regrets. Thank you.